I'm going to start this off by saying this is by far the most terrifying thing that has ever happened to me. I was browsing Craigslist looking for a new TV. I saw a 55-inch smart TV listed for $150. I contacted the seller and asked if it was still available and told him that I was really interested. He said yes, and he asked me if I would like to come by to take a look at it. And I said yes, of course. That's when he asked if I could come check it out later that night. He sent me his address, and so I looked up where he was located. He was about a half hour away, which was a little longer than I felt like driving, but I said to hell with it and went anyways. He said he worked late on Fridays and asked if I could be there at 9:30. I thought about it for a bit, but like I said, I just decided to go. I really wanted the TV, and my friend Mason was coming with me as well to help ensure my safety. Mason didn't come inside with me though. He stayed in the car. Even though that wouldn't be much help had something gone sideways, it still made me feel better knowing that someone was just right outside and that he knew where I was. When I got there and knocked on the door, he answered almost immediately. "Hey man, how are you?" he asked me with a smile on his face. "I'm good, what about you?" He then shook my hand and asked if I'd like to come inside and look at the TV. "Well, of course I do," I said. "So you didn't bring anyone with you?" he asked. No, why?" I said. "Oh, nothing, no reason, I was just curious is all. I get worried sometimes about meeting up with people, because I've had bad experiences in the past," he said. "Oh, yeah, I get it," and I let out a bit of a nervous laugh. I was thinking about how that was such a weird question to ask someone in this certain situation. Yeah, I lied to him because it felt necessary, and it was dark outside anyways, and my car windows were tinted. So if he tried to look outside and enter at my car or anything, he wouldn't have saw Mason anyways. We made small talk for a few, and all of a sudden I heard some weird yelling. It was kind of muffled sounding though. It was very faint, but I could still hear it just slightly. "What was that noise?" I asked. "Oh, that's nothing. It's probably just my two boys roughhousing in their bedroom," and he pointed down the hallway. That was the exact moment that I knew something was wrong, because the yelling I heard did not sound like it was coming from where he pointed, like at all. It sounded like it came from the complete opposite side of the house actually, almost like underneath us or something. I thought I was just being paranoid though, and I didn't want to seem crazy, so I dropped it. He asked if I was okay, and said I seemed like I was on edge. I said yeah, I'm okay, no worries at all. "Okay, good," he said. "Let's take a look at the TV now so I can get you out of here quicker," he said. "Just follow me downstairs. I have it set up and plugged in down there in our guest bedroom, so that way you can see it works." He opened the basement door and moved his hand in such a way that implied he wanted me to go first. So I did. I felt a little uncomfortable, but I still felt like I was just overthinking. The first step I took, he pushed me down the stairs. Immediately I tripped and rolled all the way down. Luckily I didn't break any bones somehow, but I hit my head multiple times on my way down on the wooden stairs. When I got to the bottom and I was working myself to get back up, he was standing over me with a crowbar and he didn't say a word. He just stared at me for a few seconds. Then he swung and tried to hit me in the head with it, but somehow I managed to dodge it. I then kicked him in the stomach. I grabbed the opposite side of the crowbar that he was holding, as he bent over and I whacked him right in the head with it. He dropped to the ground and passed out immediately. I took no chances and ran up the stairs as quickly as possible, screaming for help and yelling Mason's name. As I was leaving, I heard someone screaming for help in the basement, but I couldn't bring myself to investigate it further. I just had to leave. I got in the car and drove off, and I was freaking out, like borderline hyperventilating, while trying to explain to Mason what just happened. And then I told him how I thought there was someone else down there in that basement who had been like trapped down there or something. I couldn't even form my own thoughts. My heart told me to go back and to try to help whoever was down there, but I just couldn't. We called the police and they showed up to the scene very quickly. I told them everything that was going on. Mason said we had to drive back to the house so we could talk to the police when they got there. As much as I didn't want to, I knew he was right. When we got back less than 10 minutes later, there were already 3 police cars there. We waited out there by the end of the driveway for one of the officers to come out and to talk to us, so we could tell them our side of the story and to see what was going on. The man was still passed out on the ground when the police got there, apparently. They put him in cuffs and got him to a hospital. I don't know all the charges he was being charged with, but he will be getting locked up in prison for a very, very long time. Maybe even a life sentence, because I heard he has a very lengthy past, and they are still investigating his case. Turns out he had 2 other people in the basement, locked away into 2 separate cages, the size your average dog would fit in. He had been torturing them, and Lord only knows what else. There is not a single hour that goes by that I haven't thought about this. I've been going to this therapist though. He helps me a lot, but I'm still really messed up from it all. It haunts me every single day of my life. I have been put on Prozac for my anxiety. I just wanted it to all go away. The thoughts, the nightmares, my trauma, everything. Every day is a battle for me right now, but I'm trying my best to stay positive. That's all I can do, right? I used to buy iPhones, video game systems, TVs, and tons of other stuff on Facebook Marketplace and flip them on Craigslist and Facebook Marketplace for a profit. I've been doing this for years now as a side hustle, and I've learned a lot along the way. I would mostly try to flip iPhones because they seem to have the highest profit margin. This particular time, I had got my hands on this iPhone X for like $155. This was over a year ago, so that was an insanely good deal. You'd be surprised how low you can talk these people down if you try. Most people will decline the ridiculous offer, but a lot of people just want quick cash, and they will sell to the first person who reaches out to them. So I took advantage of that completely. Anyways, I had listed the iPhone X for sale for $300, and I put in the description that I would consider the best offer. Usually these phones sell quick, so I was never too worried about declining offers less than $300. Because most of the time, I could get the phone sold within a week for the original asking price if I just waited. After only an hour of posting the listing, I had someone reach out to me that was interested in the phone. She asked me a few questions and rearranged a meetup for the next day, late afternoon after she got out of work. She messaged me a few hours before meetup and asked if I could please just drive out to her house instead of meeting at Walmart like we had previously planned. I was immediately alarmed by that, but I went ahead and asked her for her address so I could put it in my GPS app on my phone to see how far of a drive it was. She was just under 20 minutes away, which really isn't that far of a drive. And she was paying the full price of $300 for the phone, so I decided to do it. I told her I could drive to her house and that it wouldn't be a problem. And I just told her to let me know what time I should be there. She overly thanked me and proceeded to tell me how much of a lifesaver I was, and that she really appreciated me for helping her out. She then asked if I could come at 7:30 and that she would for sure be home at that time. I agreed, but I didn't like how late she wanted to meet. I had to wake up for work the next morning at 5 a.m., and I like to hang out at the house and get some me time in before I have to go to sleep. When she originally said we could meet after she gets out of work, she said late afternoon, so I was expecting that to be anywhere from like 4:30 to 6 o'clock maybe at the latest. But I just went along with it anyways, because I really wanted to sell the phone. This lady didn't live in a neighborhood. She lived on a road off of a main road in the city. She definitely had neighbors, but the area had more of a slight rural feel to it. It was about 7:20 when I left, because I wanted to make sure she was going to be there when I got there. I let her know when I was on my way, and that I would be there in about 20 minutes. When I got there and knocked on the door, my anxiety tripled as I was waiting for an answer. It was starting to get dark, so that didn't help much either. When the woman opened the door, she introduced herself as Sabrina. She told me to come in and introduced me to her husband, who was sitting there on the couch in the living room. Almost immediately, they started harassing me, making fun of my clothes and the way I looked even. They tried to play it off as a joke, but I felt the passive aggressiveness strongly. Almost right away when I walked in, I had this weird feeling about these people. Something about them just felt very wrong. I think Sabrina was on some sort of drug, because she was acting weird and she just looked high on something. And I'm not talking about weed, I'm talking about serious hard drugs. Like her eyes were all sucked into her face and she was as pale as a ghost. She had to have been on something, just trust me, because she was just not acting right. Not like a normal person would anyways. She was being rude and slightly demanding the whole time I was there, and arguing with her husband about how much she was willing to pay for the phone. I let them look at the phone. Sabrina wanted to put her SIM card in the phone before she bought it because she wanted to make sure that it would work. She then started complaining about a tiny crack that was on the phone, even though it said in the description that there was a small crack, and it was completely visible in the pictures I took. She started getting upset and saying I was trying to scam her. She said she wouldn't pay more than $200 for it. I immediately said no and asked for the phone back. She continuously tried to negotiate, and I told her I wouldn't do a dime less than $250. I made it very clear I wouldn't take anything less than that. Well, she didn't like that very much. She took her SIM card back out of the phone and quite literally threw it at me. And I mean, she really threw it at me, like really hard. The phone hit me directly in the face, and then it fell on the ground after it bounced off my head on the hardwood floor. It landed on the screen and completely shattered the phone screen. "What the hell is wrong with you?" I asked. Then she ran off somewhere, of which I assumed to be her bedroom, and started yelling and like crying hysterically. Her husband tried to calm me down, and he gave me like $100 for me to not call the police. I took the $100 and I didn't call the authorities, even though I was still tempted to. I kept my word though and stayed true to our agreement. Part of me didn't even want to deal with the situation anymore, if I'm being honest anyways, so that's part of the reason why I didn't call the cops. Why the hell would anyone act like that? Especially a grown adult. I don't know, man. Beats me. People are crazy. She was probably just trying to win one over on me by gaslighting me and making me feel bad so she could get what she wanted. She said she would do the $300 before I got there, so I was really pissed off about the whole situation. The crack on the phone that she was complaining about was unbelievably small as well. It was more of a scratch, honestly. I ended up fixing the phone screen for like $70, I think, and I sold it a few days later for the full $300. I have completely learned my lesson though, and never will I again be driving to someone's house for a Craigslist transaction or meetup. Nowadays I refuse to meet anywhere other than the police station. One day I was browsing Craigslist out of pure boredom. I wasn't looking for anything specific at all, and I didn't even know at the time that people use Craigslist for dating, or like meeting new people and to make new friends or whatever sometimes. But after I did some digging, I found out that it was definitely a thing. I was really bored and I was pretty lonely, so I started looking through the listings. There was a guy named Tom who was really handsome. He said he was 32. I was 34 at the time, so we were pretty much the same age. I wasn't looking for anything specific. I'm a very laid-back person though, so whatever happens, happens type of thing. He had a good vibe and he seemed like a real person. And he wasn't like overly attractive, so I wasn't worried about a catfish situation much either. He was definitely handsome though, and everything about his bio I liked. We seemed to be into all the same things, so I gave it a chance. We started talking and eventually he got my number. We talked for a few days over text and over the phone as well. It was also a plus because he was less than 10 minutes away from me. He asked if I would like to go out that weekend at a nearby bar on Saturday. I said yes, and we continued talking. Things escalated fast, and we very quickly went from friendly conversations to very flirtatious talking. On our first date at the bar, when we met on Saturday, everything was going well. We made small talk, got pretty drunk, ate good food, and I had a lot of fun. I definitely liked this guy, and I had feelings for him. Later into the night, just before we were about to leave, I got a text from a random number that said, and I quote, "Stay away from my man. You better not be there with him when I get there." I was very confused, and I showed him the text I had received. He played it off like it was nothing and that he had no idea what it was about or who it was. He then became very awkward and started acting suspicious, like he wanted to leave right away. Right before we were about to go our separate ways, his girlfriend showed up. Yes, I said his girlfriend. He had a girlfriend this whole time. I was pretty upset, and I had been drinking, so I did not hold back on this woman at all. She started yelling at him and calling me all types of names and cussing at me. I started yelling back at her, and I guess she wasn't having it, because she literally took her shoe off and threw it at me. Then she started attacking me with her purse and punching me, pulling my hair and beating the crap out of me. I tried to defend myself by grabbing her hair, but before I could, I fell to the ground and I hit my head on the concrete. I had to go to the hospital because I practically fainted. That whole night was one huge mistake. I still can't believe I was ever in a situation like that to begin with. I am a very quiet and reserved, decent and respectful person, so this whole thing was very out of my element, if you will. I don't even know how she found out about us, or even how she knew we were together at the bar. I'm glad she did find out though, before I got too invested in this guy and got my feelings hurt more than I already did. She ended up going to jail that night and got charged with assault. I walked away with no charges or jail time at all. I did walk away with a severe concussion though, and a big fat reminder of why I will never meet up with someone random from online again. I have a fiance now, and we've been together for over 5 years, and we are getting married next year. We plan on starting a family soon, and I have never been happier. This is just one of those stories I like to tell when warning people about the dangers of the internet and meeting up with a complete stranger. You never know what someone's true intention could be. Things could have gone a lot worse for me that night.